recorded and will be available on the Cornelius website following the meeting. I'm ruling items 2 and 3 as urgent to allow the matters to be considered prior to the next meeting of the committee. I am also ruling the summary of feedback from the public engagement exercise circulated by the Communications Officer and uploaded to SharePoint as an appendix to item 2 of the agenda. Agenda item 1 is declaration of interest, and members are asked to declare any interest they have in any items on the agenda, and it would be helpful if members expressed why they're declaring an interest in the item concerned. I see no lights or hands, so we'll move on to item 2, Budget and Council Tax Setting 2025-26. This report is we will consider items 2 and 3 together and come back to the recommendations at paragraph 3.1 of the Budget and Council Tax report. So this report is item 2 of the budget folder and recommends the budget and council tax for 2025-2026, and I'll ask the Chief Executive to speak to the report. Mr. Ward.
Thank you, Leader and Chair, and can I first of all pass on my thanks to the joint author of this report, Norman MacDonald, Chief Financial Officer, and his colleagues for all their very considerable and obvious assistance in the preparation of this report, which he and I commend to you. I'm not, you'll be relieved to know, going to take you through the report in detail, but this is the committee which recommends the budget to the Comhairle, and it's right that I draw certain matters to your attention. The executive summary sets out the revenue budget position and the capital budget position. I wouldn't read these to you, but ask you to note that we have a funding increase of 1.346 million for core services on the revenue side, but that the capital budget is around just under 6 million, 5.985 million, which I hasten to add does not really allow us to maintain and support the facilities we have, far less considering new ones. But that is the budget we have. There's a reference there to the ring-fenced funding, very welcome for the expansion of free school meals. But that, once again, the capital position is not as we would like it. Reference to the 4 million of reserves available to support the budget, and those would reduce to 2 if these budget proposals are approved. We ask, though, that you consider that position in the context of an underlying deficit, and not just with the Comhairle's budget. Also, the integration joint board budget is also indicating a future funding gap, which is its responsibility, but is a matter which we will also have to consider. And in the light of all the financial risks facing us, we're once again recommending that the level of uncommitted reserves be retained at 3.5% for next year. Just a few observations on the process that we have followed. I think we are collectively to be commended for the process which we have followed. That has consisted of quite a few meetings of the Budget and Strategy Board, a couple of seminars, and of course all of these approved through Policy and Resources Committee and this chamber, which is the correct procedure. But the process has by and large been very purposeful, very consensual, and has been very realistic about the tasks which face us. I would also like to thank at this point my corporate management team colleagues who have had to once again identify savings within their own revenue budgets. This is not an easy process, and some of the recommendations which have had to be made are of course not what officers want to place in front of you. But we have in front of you, I think, we have a very balanced budget, if I can put it that way. It's balanced in the legal sense, but I think it is balanced among judicious use of reserves, some mitigation from Crown Estate funding, which I remind you again is local authority funding to be used for the benefit of coastal communities. I would submit to you that's exactly what we're doing. A council tax increase, and of course and of course savings. So the budget is truly balanced across the elements which make it up: council tax, savings, efficiencies, Crown estate, interest, and other elements. But it is I think an appropriate balance that is placed before you today. Unfortunately, the increase which we've received in the revenue budget has to be mitigated, has to be reduced by the contribution which we have to make to the increase in UK national insurance contributions. We will receive some compensation from Scottish Government, up to 60% or roughly, to assist with that. But 40% of those costs fall to ourselves, and those of course have to be attributed both to the Comhairle and the IGB budget. And that we have been able to do that. That is incorporated into your budget. The report sets out in detail a lot of information about council tax levels, the effect of these, and other detailed points of the budget. And Mr. MacDonald and I will be happy to take questions on these. I'm conscious you've had a day of looking at these reports, but this is, as I've said, this is the committee which makes the recommendations. But we commend this budget to you. The summary refers to our prudent budget and financial strategy, which has given us the capacity to respond. That, I think, is critical to the Comhairle and to you as members. We still have a capacity to respond, as well as managing our structural deficit and achieving some modest benefit from the increases which we've been given. And we are therefore able to agree a budget, if you wish, with recourse to the minimum possible level of additional savings. We have limited the use of reserves. Now that's necessary not just to address the underlying deficit, but to ensure the retention of reserves for future years. I've referred to uncertainty around costs. I think we all appreciate there is much uncertainty in UK, Scottish budgets, and the world situation will not make the cost of transporting goods and of goods themselves any less. So hence the recommendation for retention of reserves and retention of 3.5 million contingency. It's a better year, but the Comhairle still faces difficult policy and service choices in the year ahead, and work on the draft budget for 2026-27 will begin early in the financial year. So to turn to the recommendations, Chair, the recommendations are that you accept the settlement from Scottish Government, that you agree the budget strategy within this report, that you approve the draft budgets, you agree the delegated budget for the Integration Joint Board, you agree to a council tax increase of 8%. We will debate that, of course, at the Comhairle meeting later this afternoon. Note the capital allocation, note the risks. I do urge you to note the risks. And within that, of course, impact assessments. I don't think these are a risk in any way, but it's noted that some of these budget savings, as always, are still subject to IIAs. Agree that you monitor progress with implementation of the savings plans. Note, and this is very welcome, the preparation of a medium-term financial plan for the Comhairle is currently being finalised, and that will come to the April series of meetings. And finally, I think June, there will be an update provided to an earlier meeting than June 2025, but just in case not, there will be an update provided to the June meeting of this committee. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Chief Executive. Just in relation to item 3, the report details the recommendations from service committees, and that's been uploaded to SharePoint. Councillor Gordon Murray online, were you wanting to come in?
Thank you, Chair. I'm not a member of your committee. It's just a quick question. What is the interest rate assumption on loan charges for the year?
I'll bring in Chief Financial Officer.
Thank you, Chair.
It's on. I can't quite see because of the light.
See either. Yeah. Thank you, Chair. I don't have that information to hand, but I'll report back on that.
Yeah. So we can get that information to you, Councillor Murray.
Thanks very much.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Okay, so do members agree to the recommendations of paragraph 3.1 of the Budget and Council Tax 2025-26 report, together with the recommendation? Oh, sorry, Callum. Sorry.
Just, I ask just a point of information or clarification is to do with, Mr. Burr mentioned that there was a 6 million deficit for the Comhairle for this next year. And he also mentioned that there's in the region of 4.4 million for the IGB. Now, he mentioned that the of which the 4.4, the IGB has responsibility. Can I just a bit of clarification? I probably have clarified this with you before, but the memory is slipping. But the IGB does not have money as such of itself. It looks to the two parent bodies to have the finances. Is that correct?
The funding for the Integration Joint Board is provided through the two parent bodies, but the functions which the IGB exercises are delegated to it in terms of the integration scheme, which both parent bodies have agreed, and the IGB has financial responsibility, just as it has operational and other responsibilities for the delivery of these services and for the financial management that they entail. And the reason for that is that the IGB is not a committee, it's a legal entity, and accordingly it has that responsibility in terms of the 2014 Act and the integration scheme. I don't know if Mr. MacDonald wants to add to that at all. No.
Just to say that with the IGB sitting at a 4.4 million, which is significant when you look at the Comhairle is 6 million. In order to offset that, they're looking obviously to the two parent bodies to in some way help out in this, or of course they're looking for efficiencies. And that's the other thing that the IGB need to be looking at. Whether they've looked in the depths that the Comhairle has done is another question. But would you agree that therefore it's the responsibility of the IGB to look at this deficit of 4.4 million and look for efficiencies or whatever?
Chief Executive?
It is entirely the responsibility of the IGB to seek to manage its own budget in the first instance, and Mr. McLean will remember that the board has been urged to take actions to that end for some time. But the board will have no option, I think, but to apply the same processes which the Comhairle has had to apply in recent years to its own budget. The board can ask the Comhairle to consider assisting it with its deficit or to provide additional funding, but and the Comhairle must consider that request.
Yeah.
But it is not obliged to accede to it. So the first responsibility lies with the IGB. That is correct.
Thanks for that clarification.
Yep, thank you very much. Apologies for not seeing your light on at the start. No further lights or hands up. In that case, do members agree recommendation of paragraph 3.1 of the Budget and Council Tax 2025-26 report, together with the recommendations from the committees? Agreed. Thank you very much. The next scheduled meeting of the committee will be on the 30th of April, not in an hour's time. Thank you very much.